Broker Bulletin acknowledges the traditional custodians of all the lands across the country on which we record our podcast and pays its respect to all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people. Welcome to the Broker Bulletin podcast, where better begins. Join us as we chat with brokers about what's working for them, what drives them, and the real challenges and wins that matter most right now.
Hey everyone, welcome back to a brand new Broker Bulletin episode. I'm Tom Caesar, Group Executive LMG Asset Finance, and today's topic is a big one. Winning the quote versus winning the client, why they aren't the same thing. A little while ago, I sat down with Jason Smyth of Smyth Financial for an episode of Asset Finance Uncut, and I think it's worth a listen. We cover a lot of ground, and hopefully there's some parts of his story you might resonate with, as well as some great insights and advice. Enjoy. Hi everyone, welcome to our second edition of Asset Finance Uncut. I'm excited to introduce Smythy from Smyth Financial. Thank you for joining us, mate.
It's a pleasure, really keen.
As a quick introduction, can you just tell us a little bit about yourself, how you got into broking and a bit about the business today, just so everyone's got a bit of a background on you?
I started with in the asset finance space with Sandmar Finance back in 98. So probably giving away a few tips about my age. I had a couple of really strong mentors back there, and it was a great place to cut your teeth in the industry. I worked looking after a handful of brokers as well, so I got an idea of how that broker market worked from the banking side. Sandmar became BOQ Equipment Finance. I made a jump into ANZ for a very, very short, unpleasant period, and then found myself as a broker, basically looking to start into that career. But timing wasn't the best, as we'll cover later. Probably about 12, 13 years working for a lender in asset finance as a niche, as a specialty, and then jumping feet first into broking.
You started your business in 2009. What's the business like today? How many staff? Give us a bit of a background as your specialty and what your business looks like.
2008. I started working from home and then moved into an office with another broker, 2010 that was, and then basically worked with him up until 2017, just myself in the office. We had like a casual admin girl every now and then, but that never really worked. And then in 2017, I actually bought that business out and then kicked off my own gig. At the time, I employed my daughter to come and work for me to help out with stuff. And she was studying at uni and didn't really know what she wanted to do. And she loved the asset finance space. So as long as I had someone to answer the phone and to do documents for me, so she could still do a study and do my work when the time came. So transitioning from doing everything yourself to actually having somebody else to delegate work to was pretty hard. Took a long time to get used to that.
And then what's the team look like today?
8, potentially growing to 10. If I find the right people there, I've got a seat for them, basically.
Love it. Now, let's go back to the start of your business. I think we had a really good conversation over dinner a few months ago. You set up in 2008 a brokerage. I think we had a bit of a similar story about going into broking in the middle of the GFC and how I think the words were how stupid it was, but also the lessons learned from us. Let's go back to the start of that when you decided to set up smack bang in the middle of the GFC. How did you experience that? What did you learn from it and some of those business challenges then that maybe set you up for the success you got today?
As you know, it was brutal. Lenders didn't want to lend money. They certainly didn't want to know about a new broker who just hit the market. I think a lot of clients that you had a really good following with a bank where the clients would deal with you, but then you jump ship and you go and do your own thing thinking a lot of them would come with you. Yeah, they didn't. It was quite surprising. Like some of the clients that I'd dealt with a long, long time, they stayed with the bank. So it was tough times.
How did you go about building? You sort of mentioned the sort of, I suppose, new kid on the block, and you're trying to build relationships with the banks at a time they didn't want to lend money. How did you get through that and sort of navigate those challenges?
Just perseverance, I suppose. Talking to as many people as I could. I was sending out like little postcards to a client base I had or a contact list. And honestly, back then, 1 or 2 deals a week would be fantastic. I think at one point my goal was to hit like 20 grand in commission a month. That would have been awesome. We're a long, long way off that. So in the early days, man, I was supplementing the income by stacking shelves of Woolies. I did Nightfill there for a couple of years. Ended up taking on a canteen at a basketball stadium. So all the kids were there every Thursday, Friday night, tournaments on the weekends, and I'm out there flipping burgers and cooking chips, selling Powerade.
And how many kids did you have at that point?
I got 4 kids. So.
Yeah. So at that point, you're juggling, obviously, a growing family. You've established a business. You've got these part-time jobs as well. Probably flows into a bit of the work-life balance between juggling all of that. Like I think the conversations, I think we had some really good ones down the Barossa Valley a few weeks ago, were those challenges that business owners face juggling that work-life balance. Like, what are some of the strategies that you implement to separate work from family time, and also probably those triggers as to when you need to separate it because they've started converging too much?
I've spoken about this, but I'm not good at separating the two. My mind is on all the time. So whether I'm at home, out with people, listening to podcasts or whatever I'm doing, I'm thinking about work 24/7. While if my eyes are open, I'm basically thinking about work. So trying to mask some of that, trying to turn off a little bit. It's hard, but I've sort of been working on that a fair bit lately. I don't take my laptop home in the afternoon. I try to avoid phone calls after sort of 5:30, although last night I'm on the phone to a client at 8 o'clock. So here we are. I had a big realization when I started working from home as a broker. I started taking the kids to school. One of the other mums in the school basically said to my wife that, she always thought she was a single mum. And I thought, I'm probably doing this wrong. No one knew that the kids had a father around. So it was pretty wild realization at the time.
You've sort of said you're obviously always on for work, and I think every business owner would agree that challenge of actually switching the mind off is one of the hardest things. But having things like not taking your laptop home and not taking calls after 5:30 and setting some of those parameters, are there any other like non-negotiables that you've got that help you balance that out and that help you that trigger in your head of, hang on, I've probably let it go a bit too much?
Probably for me, just having a workplace, like an office separate to home. I did try and work from home initially. I think 6 months. That was it. It wasn't for me. I know a lot of people.
I'm with you. I hate it.
Yeah, getting dressed for work, going to an office. I'm at work. Even though we weren't doing a hell of a lot back then, it was pretty brutal. But you're still out there. You're still trying to be a professional, I guess. And then when you get in the car and drive home, you're at home.
And that time in the driveway, just take a breath and go in and try and leave it in the office.
I have a lot of conversations sitting in the garage at home on the phone. Just finishing a phone call up and say, okay, I've got to go. It's time to go home. So, but apart from that too, like trying to get home every night to cook dinner. I love cooking. Trying to be that one to actually get home and cook dinner for the kids and the wife and watch a bit of TV and stuff like that before I go to the gym. Trying to limit the overnight travel. We do a lot of day trips, like we'll leave first thing in the morning, get a day out of the way, and then get back late at night. But at least you're back in your own bed every night.
Yeah, 100%.
Most nights at least. So
I think it's safe to say you've actually got a pretty good balance. Whilst you might not switch the mind off, I think you've got some pretty good non-negotiables there that you do stick to. So I thought that was impressive when I met you. When we go from your transition, your business journey was a fair way in before you sort of had that, not a light bulb moment, but you decided I really need to build this into a business that's not me. You went from being a broker to business owner. How and why did you decide that was right for you at that point in time?
I don't know if I couldn't put a finger on when I actually realized that. It was probably part of the business coaching. To me, I'd always sort of thought, well, okay, I've got a job. I love what I do. I'm making some pretty good money, but I'm probably going to work until about lunchtime the day of my funeral. Just going, I could never see an end date. I'm getting Corey on board back in 2021, getting a business coach at the same time, really sort of readjusted my mindset and what my vision of the business was. And then working out that leverage of your time is so important. So probably realizing at the time too that how burnt out I was, like working ridiculous hours and waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning and remembering that you hadn't done something for a client.
I was about to ask, that burnout, was it directly translating to your sleep?
Oh, mate, sleep's shocking. It's one area of my life that I really wish I could do better at. I have a horrible sleep pattern.
You need to have a chat with Jordan in our office. He's sold saunas to almost everyone in this office and said how much it improved his sleep. So I'll validate that and back him up. So I don't think you need one up there in Rocky, though.
No, just step outside for a minute or, go and lock yourself in a little room. It's the same thing as a sauna.
And then how did you find that transition? You've obviously got Corey on board. You've now got, I think a lot of people say that the business really opens up when they get that sort of rock in their business, and you've got Corey. What's that allowed you to do in terms of working on, not in the business?
I think the trigger was understanding that someone else could actually be better at something than I was. In my case, it was Corey. Corey came on board initially as a credit analyst because he'd left the Commonwealth Bank and they had a pretty strict non-compete clause. So I said, well, we're not going to poke the bear. You come on board, you're going to write my applications for, 6 months until that all went over. I had a look at some of his applications and thinking, holy crap, I'm not doing these ever again. Like, they're so good. And then we've sort of grown from that. So everybody that I've put on is better in some respect at what they're doing, or way better than in a lot of cases than I am. So, for me to go back and try and do it all again, we'd be lowering our quality dramatically.
Would you say that it's put more time back in your day to give you that balance you were saying you didn't have before?
Oh, God, yeah. That's probably been the biggest difference is that time. My time at the moment is spent predominantly working on the business. Like, what's the next step? What are our strategies? How are we going to try and, get to that next stage?
You mentioned earlier you employed your daughter. And you've got family and business together. Probably you can share some war stories on that, but tell us about the family, work, home life balance goes in that relationship.
It works out pretty well. It was one of those things, and I think everyone goes through that hiring family, is that there's some doubt, there's some concern in your mind. It's like, you can't fire somebody, can you?
You can, but it might not end too well.
It's uncomfortable. So, that was in the back of my mind. But so my eldest daughter, Martha, she started, like I said, when she was at uni, basically just helping me out with those basic tasks so I could spend more time on the phone and more time trying to build a business. That developed into her doing the documents and settlements. And at the time, we're only really dealing with one or two lenders. So it was pretty straightforward. I was still doing the applications on the more complex things. Yeah, when Corey sort of kicked into gear, we actually changed a few of those roles around. But no, it's been pretty good. I think it's been, 7 years now she's been with me. She's taken a maternity leave and had a grandson for me, and she's back now working from home and working all sorts of hours, but outside of the normal 9 to 5.
When you set the business up, you obviously had an idea of what success looked like, in your head, and a bit of a vision. How's that? What success looked like then to now? What does the next wave of success look like for you?
Success in 2008 was paying the bills. Probably 2017, actually having money in the account at the end of each month and starting to make some good profits. So for me, it was all about growing that so I can invest and sort of maybe eventually retire one day. Then now it's probably changed more to time freedom, just having time that I can, if I want to travel, I can do it now. I don't have to be locked into the office 5 days a week, 7 days a week, whatever it was. I've got time, I can travel, I've got flexibility in terms of I can be sitting anywhere, doing the work. I can still be talking to clients and talking to the team. That's been a big part of it. And that's really where I can see it going even further, where I'm not needed in the business on a day-to-day basis.
And that's when you've built a good business, I suppose.
Yeah. The aim is to make myself redundant, but I'm not sure. The trouble is I probably don't want to let go.
I can imagine. You mentioned to me, you obviously engaged a third party for business coaching, and that was a big eye-opener for you, and it's been a bit of a journey. How did you go about finding a business coach that worked for you? When did you engage with a business coach? How long into the journey was it?
So that was in 2021. So it was probably, 3 to 4 weeks after Corey started. I remember having a conversation with one of my clients, and I noticed a massive uptick in his numbers. His business absolutely just grew overnight. I was sort of hammering. I was like, man, what happened here? And he said, well, I got this business coach. So I thought, okay, I want in. Tell me about this guy. And he happened to be in Rockhampton doing like a little information session. So I dragged Corey along, and we're both massive skeptics. Like, God, look at this guy. Like, this is going to be pretty interesting. So I think 5 minutes into this presentation, we looked at each other and go, this is fantastic. Like, this guy knows his stuff. We then, what did we do? Our first session was probably like in June, July in 2021. 4-day long weekend, like 12-hour days, just going through all this business coaching stuff, like the initial introduction to it. Wildly obvious that the business was a basket case, like where there was no systems in it. Like even when Corey first started, it's day one, he sits there and he's like, okay, so what do I do? I'm like, I don't know. Like, just watch what I do and we'll follow along. We'll make it up as we go. So yeah, that was a big transition to actually having a a business structure.
Was that the biggest for you that's been, just over 3 years now? Is it the structure and processes, or what were the biggest influences that the business coaches had over your business?
That, honestly, that first weekend, that 4 days was a life-changing moment. Like it was one of the things that we'll always remember. Massive mindset shift in terms of what our goals and plans were. Like I always sort of thought, I was going to head along a particular trajectory. After that weekend, I'm just going, holy crap, no, we're aiming a lot higher than that.
Yeah, nice.
We sort of came back and looked at the business, and look, I had no idea about my statistics. I didn't know, repeat business. I didn't know what my client value was or anything like that. Half the clients probably didn't even understand who they were. We'd done deals for them, but then they'd sort of fallen off the contact list. So just a casualty of being super, super busy and trying to do as much as I possibly could. That back end, it was like filling a bucket that's full of holes. It was just all these business that we're missing out on because we weren't following up clients.
Do you think it was at a point in time that you were perhaps prior to that, you may not have been ready to listen to a third party like that, but with Corey coming on board, or was it a case of, you've been thinking it for some time?
I wish I had done it 10 years ago, but 10 years ago, I might not have listened. That's probably the catch-22. Yeah, it would have been great to have that information back then, but I don't think it would have had the same impact as it did when it did.
100%. Our industry, we have a lot of inconsistencies from month to month in asset finance, and you hear that regularly between different groups. It's just not a consistent industry. You could have a record month and then a horrible month, or you could have 4 good ones in a row followed by a record and one followed. It can be all over the shop. How do you, what are the strategies you've got to be consistent in your approach with that performance, obviously, which helps balance the cash flow, etc.?
It is one of the things about the industry that's really hard to try and counter. I remember a few years ago, I had an absolute record November, blew away previous months by a mile, and then January and February were disastrous. I think I settled 3 deals in the 2 months. And it basically made a 3 very average months in the whole lot of it. So we put a lot of work into lead generation and keeping track of our pipeline. The aim is to always have 1.5 times the settlements volume coming in new leads each week. And if that number's dipping below, we need to put more work into prospecting. Ideally, I'd like to have, 4 or 5 months worth of settlement targets in that pipe. When that dips down below that 2 months, you're in trouble. That's when things are going to look pretty average. But apart from that, you can't control when assets are going to be available, when people want to buy stuff. So, and especially over the COVID period where, there was 18-month waits on some machinery. It's pretty hard to sort of judge where that cash flow is going to be coming in.
Or even losing the deal down track because you've been cut out by the vendor.
Yeah, or, in one particular case, we had a client who we couldn't get reapproved after the initially approved, ordered the truck. 18 months later, had to redo the application, and his figures had tanked. It was dead.
So to balance that out, a strong focus is just on that customer acquisition piece and making sure you're keeping the top of the funnel filled.
Yeah, constantly trying to do and I'm not good at this, but actually having that daily non-negotiable of doing some prospecting work every single day. I'm not good at that. It's really easy to write it down.
But the team are now?
Yeah, yes and no. You always have that issue where you get caught up doing the work rather than sort of looking at that next step. But we've probably spent the last 4 months working on the bigger referral network plans, trying to get other people marketing our services basically to their client basis rather than me and Corey and Marcus and everyone else hitting the phones and trying to ring up our clients in our own network. It's just trying to leverage other people's networks into our service.
We were talking about the 2 different types of asset brokers. You've got some that are transactional where they just do one deal and it's sort of set and forget. And then you've got the ones that are more long-term relationships with their customers. And I think when you speak to the transactional ones, they want to go through that evolution of making sure they build a relationship-based business so they've got repeat business. And I think what's been impressive in getting to know your business is that repeat customer that you get. What would you be able to share any nuggets of gold on how you continue to get that business out of your existing customers and maintain those relationships?
Talk to them over and over and over again. Just, I guess the way I look at it, I have conversations with my clients. I aim to try and talk to my clients 2 or 3 times a year minimum. Calling somebody on their birthday, their mum and dad are usually putting a Facebook post on and then they get a phone call from their broker. It's like, what do you want? It's like, no, just wish you happy birthday. People love that stuff. That's really simple, low touch sort of work. And you're not trying to sell to them. You're basically asking them about their business. How did they go for their last quarter? What are their aims? What are their goals? How can I help them out? That sort of thing is just building that relationship, and you get to know your clients really, really well.
Just being front of mind.
Yeah, as like I said, it's the best job in the world. I get to talk to people all day, every day about what they're doing, and I'm not trying to sell. I'm just trying to be in their radar.
What about new clients? Like you speak about that prospecting and obviously keeping the top of the funnel built. How do you go about finding new clients? You mentioned some referral partners where you want them advertising your services to other people.
So we generally try and find businesses who have got a similar client demographic. So obviously accountants are a prime example. They understand what we do. Their clients are looking to grow and improve their businesses, so we can help them out with that. We could do a lot better in that space. I know there's other brokers out there that are killing it in the accountant referral space. We've never had a lot of success with dealer referrals. We've got a handful of them, but hit and miss. The accountants and business advisors are definitely the way to go. And then like some of your trade organisations like master plumbers and master builders, getting involved with those guys. And of course, our business coach. That's a big source of referrals. And if you look at their client demographic, they're all business owners wanting to grow and improve their business. So it's a great market to be in.
You obviously mentioned the business coaching. Outside of your staff, there's obviously always that, do I hire someone to do this or do I use an external partner for something? What other external business support have you used over the journey? And probably more so, what's worked and what hasn't? I think it's clear the business coaching's worked for you and you're a big advocate for it, but is there anything else?
I'll tell you what hasn't worked is advertising. I spent a fortune on advertising over the years and I've literally got zero results out of it. It's super frustrating. I don't know. I know other people are doing it and they seem to be hitting the mark, but no, not me at all. So trying to get high quality leads in through our referral network is always the way to go. So for me, my best money spent is to take an accountant to lunch. Yeah, once or twice a week, make those phone calls, go to networking events and things like that. That's where we sort of sit in that market. It's pretty hard, tedious work, but it works.
You're based in Rocky. Obviously, that we have got a lot of brokers in the network that are in regional areas that are going through that growth phase. What are some of the probably challenges you've faced? I know you've got a lot of customers that aren't based in Rocky. So tell us a bit about maybe being in the regional areas and some of the challenges you've faced and maybe some of the wins.
The distances are massive distances. I remember driving 1,200 Ks in a day to go and get a set of documents signed. It's a long bloody drive for a deal. But I guess these days with DocuSign, that sort of stuff can be pushed aside now. I mean, you still need the trips to catch up with clients, but it's not that urgent. Jump in the car, drive out to Thierry or somewhere to get a set of documents so you can settle a deal the next day. I mean, I came from back in the El Sanway days where you'd post documents out and they'd get their mail once a week. But now the urgency is everyone expects things to be done straight away. And,
yesterday.
Yeah. So, they're talking to us one day about their truck that they want to buy, but they need to settle on Thursday or Friday. And it's pretty hard when you got those distances in mind. So I guess one of the biggest wins is, the DocuSign process, getting other people in our network to also help out with things as well. So been a big help.
So have you seen more of your growth now starting to come outside of your local area now?
Yeah, look, we've never really been super, super focused on one geography. I guess Central Queensland is still the core business, but I've got clients from Melbourne to Cairns and a couple over in WA, but there's got to be a reason why they're clients. Like if a client from Melbourne wants to deal with me, well, there's got to be a tie-in. Otherwise it looks a bit rough from the bank's point of view. And I know when I was in the banking seat, you'd have a Rockhampton broker client in Sydney and the dealers in Melbourne. It's like, well, no, this isn't right. There's something going on here. So there's always that perception that, there's got to be a connection with that client.
Let's go. There's some new brokers, business owners establishing their businesses. What are 3 nuggets of gold, words of wisdom, or what are the 3 things that you would give them advice on if they were starting out an asset finance broking business today?
Definitely do it. It is fantastic job and fantastic industry to work in. I think if you look at the whole financial services industry, this is the nugget of gold. It's a great industry to be in. Do the fundamentals over and over again. I've got a little thing on my wall here. Sorry, I'm just consistency over intensity. Just it's a hard slug. There's no magic silver bullet or whatever it is. Like I said, the advertising, I can't have a win with that.
Yeah.
So it's back to the networking. You got to be out there to be seen. You've got to have a fantastic reputation. And especially in a regional area, reputation is everything because everybody knows everybody here. And you want to have them know you for the right reasons, I guess. I think I was talking to you about the life lesson I had early in my career from an old grazier out in Longreach. And he said, talking about sheep, and he said, you can shear the bastards every year for years and years. He said, you can skin him once. that always I always have that in the back of my mind that, you can look at maximising the return on a deal or maximising the return on a client over a lifetime. And, even when we're competing on quotes and things, it's like you might not win that quote, but you win the client. As long as they're coming back to you time and time again, you might not get every single deal, but you make sure you're getting an opportunity every single time.
Yeah, I loved hearing that with your philosophy around that lifetime value of the customer. I mean, you'd much rather do 50 deals than that one.
And, you get some of those bigger clients that grow and, there's particular clients that have sort of started off very, very small and then grow into substantial businesses over the last 10, 12 years. They're drawing down a lot of money on limits. That's very, very high client value.
And that's where your business grows as their business grows.
Yeah.
Nice.
I think that's one of the favourite things I like about this industry is that we get to see clients really succeeding and we're a big part of that and providing the funding and allowing them to have that growth. A lot of these guys can't make money without machinery.
100%. Well, Jace, lastly, have you got any final words of wisdom that you'd like to share with the audience before we wrap things up?
I had something written down here, didn't I? One of the things I think when Corey first kicked off with me, it was look at the value of a deal settling isn't the commission you're earning on it. It's the potential to get another 2 referrals from that client. So keep that client happy. Really go after those numbers, even if they're small deals. You're not making much out of it. Settling a deal, you've got that opportunity to really impress a client and get referrals from them. You do that over and over again, and those numbers snowball. You really build that network. Patience. There's an old saying, it takes 10 years to become an overnight success. But I guess the other side of that is haste. If you have an idea about something, implement it. Progress over perfection. Have the idea, implement it. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, kill it off, go with the next idea. But just shorten that period of time between idea and implementation.
How many times have you sat there on an idea and you've waited 2 years to do it?
Yeah, a lot. Some of those ideas are absolute crap, and you think, yep, should have left that one in the can. But other ideas, it's just like, this is gold. So why didn't we do this 2 years ago when we first discussed it?
As long as you learn from it, it's worth a try.
Yep.
Have you seen any change in the lender landscape in the last few years?
Oh, yeah. Look, it's constantly evolving. There has been a noticeable drive towards that low doc space. If you look at all this, there's so many lenders out there with a low doc product, which probably can, I imagine, get people into a bit of trouble with, too much access to funding. And I think we saw this back before the GFC with the home lending market where there was open slather and people getting loans. I do worry a little bit that potentially we're going a little bit too hard in that space. We have an internal policy here that, maximum of 2 low doc deals for a client, and then we want full application. So just to really understand the financials behind the business and their capacity. They're signing off, or we're signing off to say they can afford it. Are we really getting a big picture into how that business operates? And how are they going to operate in the next, 3 years? We've actually put a fairly big focus on that, and we want to be more in that full doc limit application sort of space.
And then the other one here is how do you build relationships with the lenders? Obviously, there's a big panel to have relationships with, and then there's obviously credit teams as well.
I guess credit teams, we give them the highest quality applications we possibly can. We spend a lot of time and effort developing that process so that when they're getting an application, there's no questions. They know the client. They know they can see the financial stability or the strength of that client. They understand the asset they're buying. All the details are there. Whereas, if you're sending through garbage, you're getting the rework and everyone's getting frustrated. When we're sending applications in, it's all there. Our approval numbers are sort of up around that 99 to 100%.
Love it.
So we're getting good traction. I'd rather decline a deal internally than send garbage in.
Yeah.
We do keep in touch with the lenders. We try to be nice around frustrations. Like the banks are always going to piss us off. There's always something. There's always something. And of course, it's never there, never our fault. Yeah. But you're just understanding that, if mistakes are made, owning it, getting the corrections done as fast as possible, and at the end of the day, they're doing a job. They've got a set of rules they're trying to abide by. So let's play along and work in those rules.
Love it. Well, Smythe, it's been a pleasure getting to know you and your business, and I'm excited at the next evolution of growth we're about to go through, and I'm excited to continue working with you. So you're a true professional, and thank you for joining us today, and look forward to catching up soon.
Awesome, mate. Been great.
Thanks so much for listening. If you have a topic you want us to discuss, please email us at brokerbulletin@lmg.broker or DM us on Instagram at lmg.broker, and our producer will make sure we answer it ASAP. If you like the episode, make sure you rate it and follow us in your favourite pod store. See you next time.
Thanks for tuning in to Broker Bulletin. We would hate for you to miss an episode. Subscribe to Broker Bulletin in your favourite podcast app. Has this episode been helpful? We'd love you to rate and review us. It'll help us deliver content that's useful to you and help others discover us. If you have great ideas for topics worth tackling or have burning questions you'd like addressed on an upcoming episode, reach out. Links in the show notes. See you next time.